The girl didn't blink when she said it. She stood on the cool white tiles of the billionaire's kitchen, her small fingers wrapped around the edge of the marble counter, her chin barely reaching the surface. Her brown eyes were steady on his face as she spoke in a clear, gentle voice that didn't match the weight of her words. "I want you to live like my mom for 7 days," she said. "No drivers, no cards, no rich friends, just the money she makes in 1 week, and you can't tell anyone you're rich. That's my first wish." Logan Hayes, the man whose name sat on top of tall glass buildings and charity banners, felt his mouth go dry. For a second he thought he heard her wrong. This was supposed to be a joke, a little game with his maid's 10-year-old daughter. He was ready for a big dollhouse or a trip to Disney. Not this, not a wish that sounded like a punishment, not a wish that felt like a mirror held up to his face. The fridge hummed, the clock on the wall ticked. Somewhere in the house, a television played a soft ad about kindness and giving, and he knew it was his own voice talking about changing lives. He stared at the small girl in a faded yellow t-shirt, her hair tied up in a crooked ponytail, and saw nothing playful in her eyes. There was only hurt and truth. He had offered 3 wishes. He had smiled and called it fun. Now he realized he had just trapped himself. Before we go deeper into this story, if you love emotional, life-changing stories like this, please tap the like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on your notifications. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from right now? I'd really love to know. Now let's go back to where it all started. That morning, the city felt like it always did for Logan Hayes: expensive, busy, and far away. Far away from real people, real problems, real pain. From the top floor of the Hayes Global Tower, the streets of New York looked like lines drawn by a child's pencil. Tiny yellow taxis crawled along, people moved like dots, and everything below the glass windows felt like part of someone else's life. Logan stood with his hands in his pockets, his reflection mixing with the skyline. His black suit was sharp, his tie perfectly straight. His gray eyes looked calm, empty. He had just promised $5 million to a charity on live television. The cameras had loved him. "Mr. Hayes, how does it feel to give so much?" the reporter had asked, pushing a microphone toward his face as the big check with his name stood behind them. "It's simple," he'd said smoothly with that practiced half-smile. "If you are blessed, you should be a blessing. Money is a tool. We have to use it to help people who are suffering." The cameras flashed, the crowd clapped. Somewhere, someone wiped a tear. No one saw that his smile disappeared the moment the red light on the camera turned off. Now back in his office, the echo of that last question still hung in his ears. How does it feel to give so much? It felt like nothing. There was no warm glow in his chest. No joy, no sense of meaning, just numbers moving from one account to another, just a room filled with strangers who would forget his name as soon as the next headline showed up. He walked to his glossy desk, sat down, and opened his laptop. On the screen were other numbers, meetings, deals, projections, profit charts climbing like stairs to the sky. This was his world: cold facts, quiet rooms, silent phones until his assistant called. His assistant's voice cut through the silence. "Sir." "Come in," Logan said. The door opened and Daniel, his young assistant, stepped in with a tablet in his hand. "You did great on the live segment," he said. "Social media is already trending with your name. Hayes Helps is back up again." Logan nodded like he cared. "Good, what's next?" "You have a board call at 3, Daniel replied. "And there's a message from home from Caroline." Caroline, his maid. She had been working for him for 3 years now. Quiet, careful, always on time. He hardly thought about her unless the house was messy or something went wrong, which almost never happened. "What does she need?" he asked, eyes still on his laptop. "She asked if you could call her back when you had a moment," Daniel said. "She said it was important, but she apologized for bothering you." Logan felt a small flicker of annoyance. People always thought their problems were important. He just pledged $5 million. He had a board call. The stock market did not wait for anyone's toothache or rent issue. Still, he nodded. "Fine, put her through." Daniel tapped the screen and handed him the phone. "Hello," Logan said, his voice flat. There was a small pause, then a soft, careful voice came through. "Good afternoon, sir, it's Caroline." "Yes, Caroline, I was told you needed something." "Yes, sir, I'm so sorry to call you at work," she rushed out. "I wouldn't, but I don't know what else to do. I went to the clinic this morning. The dentist said I need a root canal. My tooth is very bad, sir. It's been hurting for months now. They said if I wait longer, it could cause an infection." Logan tapped his fingers lightly on the desk. He hated long explanations. "I see," he said. "The treatment costs more than I have," she continued quietly. "I was wondering if I could please get an advance on my salary just this one time. I will pay it back little by little, I promise. I can even work extra hours." He glanced at the charity banner still open in another tab on his laptop. $5 million to bring smiles back to children in poor communities. Below it, a photo of his own face smiling kindly at the camera. His heart did not move. "Caroline," he said, keeping his tone polite, "you know we have rules about advances. If I do it for one person, everyone else will want the same thing. It's not professional." There was a long silence. He heard her breath shake on the other end. "Yes, sir," she whispered. "I understand, I'm sorry." "Take some pain medicine," he added, as if that solved everything. "We will review salaries at the end of the year. Maybe then things will be better." "Yes, sir, thank you, sir." The line went dead. Logan put the phone down and moved on to his board notes. Within minutes, the sound of her weak voice had slipped out of his mind. But it had not slipped out of another mind. Back at the big house in a small room off the kitchen, a 10-year-old girl had heard everything. Lily Brooks sat on the edge of the bed she shared with her mother, hugging a small, threadbare bear. Her mom thought she was watching cartoons on the tiny secondhand TV, but Lily had muted it when she heard her mother whisper into her phone. "The walls here were thin," words traveled. She had heard the shaky way her mom said root canal. She didn't know all the big words, but she knew that tooth had been hurting for a long time. She had watched her mom chew on one side of her mouth. She had seen her wince when cold water touched that side. She knew pain when she saw it. She had heard the word advance. She knew what that meant too, asking for money early, promising to work even harder. Her mom already left the house before sunrise and came back when it was dark. How much harder could she work? And she had heard the answer. No. Not rude, not shouted, just smooth, cold, like a door closing slowly but firmly. Lily sat there, staring at the gray wall, feeling something heavy fill her little chest. She thought of the framed picture she had seen that morning on the hallway table. Logan Hayes shaking hands with a charity leader, smiling in front of a huge check. There had been words in bold letters, $5 million to heal smiles. Heal smiles. Her mother could not even chew without pain. Lily pressed her lips together and hugged her bear tighter. For the first time, the big beautiful house felt unfair. It was always unfair, but now she could name it. When Logan came home that evening, the house was just as perfect as always. The polished floors shone. The large windows framed a soft orange sunset. The stylish lights in the ceiling gave everything a warm golden glow. A soft smell of roasted chicken floated from the kitchen. He dropped his keys into the crystal bowl by the door and walked in, loosening his tie. The quiet was thick. He liked it like that. No children running, no mess, just a clean, controlled space. "Good evening, sir," Caroline said as he passed the hallway to the kitchen. She stood straight, her dark hair pulled back into a neat bun, her uniform clean but worn at the edges. She didn't smile wide, but she tried. It hurt her jaw. "Evening," he replied, already taking his phone out of his pocket. "Everything okay here?" "Yes, sir," she hesitated. "Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes." He nodded without looking up. That was when he saw Lily. She was standing by the kitchen island, putting spoons and forks into place. Her t-shirt had a small cartoon sun on it, faded from too many washes. Her jeans were a little too short at the ankles, showing pink socks with tiny clouds on them. Her ponytail was messy, but her face was clean, serious. He didn't know why, but today he really saw her, not just as the maid's kid, but as a person. A small person in his big house, moving quietly like she was afraid to disturb the walls. "Hey," he said, trying on a friendly tone, something he usually reserved for interviews. "What's your name again?" She looked up at him, and for a second he thought he saw something like surprise in her eyes. Did he really not know? "Lily, sir," she said softly. "Right's Lily," he repeated as if he had known all along. "How old are you now?" 10, she answered. 10, he said again, nodding. "Good age." She said nothing, just kept arranging the forks, but her hands moved slower now. He felt a small itch of discomfort and decided to cover it with what he was good at, charm, money, games of power disguised as kindness. You know, he said, leaning on the counter, I just gave away a lot of money today on TV to help kids. She glanced up, then looked back down. I saw the picture in the hallway, she murmured. Ah, yes, he said, smiling a little too wide. The big check. She nodded. Do you know what I told them? He asked, pausing for effect. I told them kids are important, their smiles matter, that's why I help. Lily's fingers stilled on the spoon. She didn't look at him, but he saw her shoulders tighten just a little. My mom's tooth hurts, she said quietly. Her smile hurts too. The words slid into the space between them like a knife. Logan straightened. Teeth can be fixed, he said quickly. She'll be fine. She said the doctor needs money, Lily replied. She said she asked you, she said you can't. Caroline, who had been stirring something on the stove, went stiff. Lily, she said sharply, fear in her voice, that's enough, finish the table. Lily swallowed and lowered her head. Yes, Mom. Logan felt heat rise in his ears. He didn't like being made to feel small, especially by a child in his house, a child whose mother worked for him. He forced a smile, trying to put the control back in his hands. Your mom knows the rules, Lily, he said, but hey, you know what? She looked up again slowly. I'm in a good mood today, he said, so I'll make you a deal, a fun one. He grabbed a pen from his pocket and a small notepad from the counter where grocery lists usually sat. I am a very rich man, you know that, right? She nodded. So, he said, drawing 3 small numbers down the page, 1, 2, 3. I will give you 3 wishes, anything you want, if I can afford it, and if it does not break the law, I will grant it. How does that sound? Caroline turned from the stove, eyes wide. Sir, that's not, she doesn't. It's okay, Logan cut in, waving a hand. It's just a game, something fun after a long day, right, Lily? Lily stared at the paper, at the 3 numbers. For a moment, she really did look 10 again, not like the quiet watcher she had been all day. Her eyes shone a little. Anything? She asked slowly. He laughed, within reason, no asking for the moon. She didn't laugh with him. Do you have rules? She asked instead. Rules? For the wishes, she said. You have rules for money, for advances. Do you have rules for this? Her words landed like small stones. Logan forced another laugh. Smart kid, he said. Okay, rule 1, I won't do anything illegal. Rule 2, I won't hurt anyone. Rule 3, he thought for a second. Rule 3, you can't wish for more wishes. Lily nodded slowly. What about Rule 4? There is no Rule 4, he said, a little amused now. There should be, she replied, looking up at him, her eyes steady. Rule 4, you have to keep your promise, even if it makes you sad. Caroline whispered her name again, warning in her voice, but Logan felt something push at his pride. He could not back down now. Fine, he said, writing it down. Rule 4, I keep my promise. He signed his name at the bottom of the page with a big, bold signature, Logan Hayes. There, you see, a contract. I always keep my word, Lily. That's why people trust me with their money. She looked at the page as if it were something holy. Then she looked at her mother, whose face showed a mix of fear and hope, like she wanted to pull her daughter away and hug her at the same time. Can I think about it? Lily asked. About my wishes. You can tell me your first one now, Logan said casually. Come on, start small, a doll, a bike, a trip, you like beaches. Lily shook her head. I don't want to start small, she said quietly. You said you always keep your word, I want to use that well. He felt a strange twist in his stomach. He straightened. You talk like an old woman, he joked, trying to lighten the air. My mom says life makes kids grow fast, she replied, especially when there isn't enough money. He didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. Dinner passed with the sound of plates, cutlery, and a few careful words. Logan ate at the long dining table while Caroline and Lily stayed in the kitchen as they always did. He scrolled through his phone between bites, checking the comments on his latest interview. Such a kind man. He really cares. An angel to the poor. He clicked the screen off, even the praise felt heavy now. Later, when the dishes were washed and the house had gone quieter, he found Lily again in the kitchen. She was sitting at the table, legs too short to touch the floor, swinging her feet slowly. In front of her lay the same notepad, the page with his signature and rules. She had added nothing else to it, just stared at it like she was trying to see through it. He walked in and cleared his throat. "So, have you thought of your 3 wishes?" She looked up. The kitchen light made small shadows under her eyes. She had the tired look of someone who had watched too much truth in one day. "Yes, sir," she said. "I know my first one." He leaned on the counter again, feeling the familiar power settle back on his shoulders. This was his house, his game, his money. "All right then," he said with lazy confidence. "Let's hear it." Caroline was wiping the sink. She froze, her back to them, listening. The whole room seemed to hold its breath. Even the fridge hum felt softer. Lily picked up the pen and ran her finger over his name. "You said you help kids," she began. "You said their smiles matter." "Yes," he replied, a bit impatient now. "That's true." "You gave $5 million today," she said. He blinked. "How did you?" "There's a big picture of you in the hallway," she explained. "With a check. My mom cleans it every week." She told me what the numbers mean. He swallowed. "All right." "You said money is a tool," she went on, "that it should fix pain." "Yes," he said slowly. Lily lifted her head and looked straight into his eyes. For the first time that day, he had to fight the urge to look away. "Then my first wish," she said quietly, "is that you live like us, like my mom and me, for 7 days. No rich credit cards, no drivers, no fancy suits. You get only the money she makes in 1 week. You have to go out, take the bus, stand in line, feel what it's like when the tooth hurts but you can't pay. When the rent is coming and you don't know how, you can't tell anyone you're rich. You can't call your rich friends to save you. You have to feel it, the way we feel it." Her voice did not shake, not once. He stared at her, his mind spinning. That wasn't a child's wish, it was a sentence, a mirror, a test he never wanted to take. "That's not," he started, then stopped. "It's not a toy," she said softly, "but it will help kids, starting with me. If you really know how it feels, maybe you'll stop saying no so easy. Maybe you'll see people, not just numbers." Behind her, Caroline's hand dropped from the cloth. She turned slowly, her eyes shining with tears she tried to hide. "Lily," she whispered, her voice breaking, "what are you doing?" Lily's eyes glossed over, but she did not look away from Logan. "You said Rule 4, she reminded him gently. "You have to keep your promise, even if it makes you sad." For the first time in years, Logan had no ready answer, no smart line, no polished phrase. His throat felt tight. His chest felt heavy, as if someone had stacked stones inside. "This is ridiculous," he finally said, waving a hand, trying to make it sound light. "I meant real wishes, Lily, something I can just buy, a house maybe, school, clothes, not this." "You said anything that is not illegal," she replied. "Is it illegal to live like a poor person?" Her question cut him deeper than he expected. He opened his mouth, then heard a small vibration on the counter. His phone lit up with a message from Daniel. "Great news, clips from your 'I love helping kids' speech are going viral. We should do a follow-up story from your home, maybe something with your staff, a real-life kindness video. People eat that up." His eyes moved from the glowing screen to the girl sitting in his kitchen. His staff, his home, his kindness. If the world saw him walk away from this little contract after a big speech about helping kids. His jaw tightened. He felt the trap close around him, a trap he had built with his own mouth, his own promise, his own name signed on that small sheet of paper. Caroline took a small step forward, fear and hope fighting on her face. "Sir," she said quietly, "please," she didn't mean. "Yes, I did," Lily said quickly. "I mean it." She blinked fast and one tear escaped down her cheek. "If you can live like us for 7 days, then I'll trust your big speeches, then I'll know the money you give is real, not just for cameras." Silence dropped over the kitchen like a blanket. Logan looked at the paper, at his name, at the rules he had made himself, at the little numbers 1, 2, 3 waiting for more wishes like empty doors. He picked up the page slowly, feeling the thin paper shake just a little between his fingers. 7 days, he repeated under his breath. He imagined buses, crowded rooms, small pay, no private driver, no black card, no one saying yes. "Sir," because of his bank account. His heart started to beat faster. Then another thought hit him, sharp and clean. If he refused, he would not just be breaking a promise to a child, he would be proving her right. That he was a liar. That all his big words were just noise. His hand tightened on the paper. He felt 10 years of comfort, pride, and power lining up in front of him like soldiers ready to fight this crazy idea. He also felt something else, something very small and quiet inside him that he hadn't felt in a very long time. It felt like shame. He opened his mouth to speak, to say yes, to say no, he didn't even know yet. At that exact moment, the doorbell rang, loud and sharp, cutting through the thick air of the kitchen. Caroline jumped. Lily wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. Logan turned his head toward the hallway, still holding the paper, his heart pounding. He had no idea that the person at the door was about to make this little game even more dangerous. And he had no idea that saying yes or no to Lily's first wish would change not just his week but his entire life. For a long moment, no one in the kitchen moved. The doorbell echoed again through the quiet house, a clear, urgent sound that felt out of place in the stillness. Logan turned his head toward the sound, still gripping the small sheet of paper where his bold signature mocked him. Caroline wiped her hands on her apron nervously. "I'll get it, sir," she whispered and hurried out. Her footsteps were quick but cautious, like someone walking across glass. Lily sat still on the stool, her feet barely touching the floor. Her little hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on the man across from her. The man who looked like the world should obey him, yet suddenly looked lost. From the hallway came faint voices, Caroline's soft tone, then another male, firm, polite but tense. Then Caroline's footsteps returned. "Sir," she said quietly, stopping at the doorway. "It's Mr. Dalton from your PR team. He says it's important." Logan's stomach twisted. Dalton was his image manager, the man who made sure every public move he made looked good enough for headlines. He nodded stiffly. "Send him in." Moments later, a tall man in a gray blazer entered, carrying a sleek folder and wearing that strained half-smile of someone who lived inside the constant fire of social media reactions. "Mr. Hayes," he said quickly, glancing between Logan and the two females in the kitchen. "Sorry for dropping in unannounced. We've got a situation." Logan frowned. "What kind of situation?" Dalton stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The charity clip is exploding online, 20 million views in 4 hours. That's great news, but..." He hesitated, then looked uneasy. "People are starting to ask questions." "What questions?" "About your employees, sir." Dalton adjusted his tie. "Someone posted a photo of Caroline cleaning the main hallway today. She's in your house uniform, same background as the charity banner from your live interview. People are asking if you actually pay your staff well or just donate to strangers." Logan blinked. "What?" "It's just optics," Dalton said quickly. "People are noticing things. The charity's slogan, Healing Smiles for Every Family, is trending alongside that photo. People are comparing her uniform to the brand of your kitchen marble." Someone tweeted, "Maybe he should start healing smiles in his own house." Caroline's face drained of color, her hands flew to her mouth. "Oh no, sir, I didn't." "I know you didn't," Dalton said firmly, raising a hand. "It's the internet, they notice everything, but this could turn ugly fast if we don't handle it right." Logan's chest tightened. His empire was built on control, numbers, schedules, reputation, and right now one photo was enough to make him the villain of his own charity. Dalton continued, "We need a quick PR fix, something real but positive, something that says, 'Look, I care, my kindness starts at home.'" He pulled out his tablet and tapped it open. "We could shoot a short feature, maybe you spend time with your staff, tell their stories, show the human side of Logan Hayes." Behind him, Lily's voice spoke up quietly. "He could start by keeping promises." Dalton froze, startled. He turned to the girl as if noticing her for the first time. Who's this?" "My daughter," Caroline said quickly, trying to shield her. Logan sighed. "She's the one who started this little game." "Game?" Dalton asked, confused. "She wanted 3 wishes," Logan said flatly, looking at the paper in his hand. "Her first wish is that I live like them for 7 days." Dalton blinked, waiting for him to laugh, but Logan didn't. "Oh, you're serious?" Dalton murmured, his expression flickering from confusion to mild horror. "Sir, that's, not exactly the direction we need for damage control." But Logan wasn't listening. His eyes were on Lily, the child who had unintentionally cornered him into something far deeper than PR could ever fix. Dalton leaned closer. Sir, please ignore this. Just post a statement, maybe a photo with the staff smiling, casual, friendly. No one will care by morning. Logan didn't answer. He looked at Lily, who still hadn't looked away from him. There was no fear, only quiet expectation. Her eyes asked the same question he'd been avoiding all his life. What kind of man are you when no one's watching? And for once, he didn't know. He turned to Dalton slowly. Cancel everything for a week. Dalton's jaw dropped. Sir. Cancel everything. Mr. Hayes, that's not. Do it. His tone cut like steel. No meetings, no interviews, no PR stunts. I'm taking a break. Dalton stammered, but sir, the market. Logan's eyes snapped to him, cold and sharp. Do I look like a man asking for opinions? Dalton swallowed hard and nodded. Why, yes, sir, I'll handle it. He shot a bewildered look at Caroline and Lily, then turned and left the kitchen quickly, murmuring into his phone. Silence filled the house again. Caroline stared at her employer, unsure whether to thank him or beg him not to go through with it. Lily just waited, calm as the sea before a storm. Logan set the paper down on the counter, exhaled deeply, and said quietly, 7 days, that's your first wish. Caroline gasped, sir, please, she didn't mean. But he raised a hand. No, I said it, I'll do it. Rule 4, I keep my promise. He looked at Lily again. I start tomorrow. Lily's lips trembled. You mean it? He nodded. I do. For the first time, her small face broke into a faint, disbelieving smile. It wasn't joy, it was something quieter, hope mixed with awe, like watching a miracle that might disappear if she blinked. Caroline pressed her palms together. Sir, please, you don't have to. Yes, I do, he said firmly. If this is what it takes for me to understand, then so be it. He turned away before they could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. The next morning felt alien from the start. Logan woke in the same bed he always did, Egyptian sheets, silent air conditioning, a view of the skyline, but everything looked different now. Colder. He sat up slowly, staring at the city through the glass wall. Somewhere down there, people were already awake, rushing to buses, counting coins, living lives that had nothing to do with men like him. He walked to his closet and realized how absurd it was, rows of suits that cost more than most people's yearly salaries. He ran his fingers along the fabrics, all dark, all perfect, all lifeless. Then he sighed and reached for a plain gray t-shirt and jeans he hadn't worn in years. By the time he reached the kitchen, Caroline was already there, confused and anxious. Sir, I made your usual breakfast, she said softly, gesturing to the table filled with eggs, toast, and fruit. He shook his head. Not today, today I eat what you eat. She froze. Sir, my meals aren't. Whatever you and Lily have, he interrupted, that's what I'll have. Caroline glanced at her daughter, then reluctantly opened a small pot on the stove. The smell of simple rice porridge filled the air. She poured some into a small bowl and handed it to him. Logan sat down at the table and tasted it. It was plain, warm, and strangely comforting. Lily sat across from him, studying his face carefully. You really meant it, she said quietly. I told you, he replied, forcing a small smile. A deal is a deal. She nodded solemnly, as if she were the adult and he were the child. Then you have to do it properly. No cars, no drivers, you have to go where my mom goes. He hesitated. Where your mom goes? She nodded. To work, to buy food, to the market, to the bus stop. You have to walk sometimes too. Caroline nearly dropped the spoon she was holding. Lily. But Logan raised a hand. It's okay, I said I'd do it right. He stood up and looked around his mansion one last time. The spotless tiles, the quiet art pieces on the wall, the silence that once felt powerful now felt like a cage. He took a breath and said, let's go. By noon, Logan was standing at a crowded Lagos bus terminal, heat, dust, and noise pressing in from all sides. The sun glared off metal roofs, horns blared, vendors shouted, and the smell of roasted corn mixed with exhaust fumes. He had worn a simple shirt, old sneakers, and a small backpack Caroline had given him. In his pocket, 7,000 naira, Caroline's weekly pay, that was it. No wallet, no cards, no guards. Caroline stayed close, clutching her handbag nervously, afraid someone might recognize him, but no one did. Here, he was just another man sweating under the sun. This is how we go every day, Caroline said softly, almost apologetically. He nodded, eyes darting around. Everything felt too loud, too alive. He'd spent years above the city in glass towers that filtered out the sound of the world. Now it was crashing into him all at once. A bus screeched to a stop in front of them, its side dented, its door hanging loosely. A conductor shouted destinations, waving his arm. People pushed forward, shouting, sweating, laughing. "Sir," Caroline began, then caught herself. "I mean, Logan, this is the one." He followed her in silence, climbing into the packed bus. The smell of sweat and old metal hit him instantly. There were no empty seats. He gripped the bar overhead as the bus jerked forward. Every bump felt personal. Every shout from the conductor felt like a reminder that his money couldn't smooth this ride. A woman beside him balanced a sleeping child on her lap. The child's head leaned against his arm, and for the first time in a long while, he didn't move away. He looked down at the small face, peaceful despite the chaos, and something strange twisted inside him. When the bus stopped, Caroline tugged his sleeve. "We're here." They stepped off near a row of small stores, wooden stalls, buckets, baskets, laughter, struggle. This was where Caroline bought groceries after work. He followed her from stall to stall, watching as she calculated every coin, haggled gently, and smiled tiredly even when turned down. He had spent years moving billions across screens. Now he saw a woman weighing every single coin like it was a heartbeat. At one point, she reached into her bag, hesitated, and sighed. "I can't buy oil today," she murmured. He frowned. "Why?" "It's too expensive now," she said simply. "I'll manage without." He looked at the bottle she was staring at, cheap, half-full, greasy label. The kind of thing he'd never noticed in his life. It cost less than one sip of his usual coffee. Without thinking, he pulled out money. "Take it." She caught his hand quickly. "No, sir, no shortcuts, that's not how we live." Her eyes begged him not to break the rule, and for the first time he realized it wasn't just a test from Lily. It was a promise to really see what others endured without shortcuts. He let his hand drop. By the third day, Logan's shoes were covered in dust, his phone battery long dead, and his confidence stripped bare. He'd learned to stand in line for everything: food, transport, even water. He'd learned to walk past stores filled with things he used to buy without thinking. He'd learned what hunger really felt like when the money in your pocket had to stretch another day. But most of all, he'd learned silence. Real silence, the kind that came when no one looked at you because you had nothing to offer them, the kind that made you invisible. On the fifth night, he sat outside Caroline's small apartment on a wooden stool, watching the streetlights flicker. Lily sat beside him, swinging her legs. "Harder than you thought?" she asked softly. He smiled faintly, his voice hoarse. "Much harder." She looked up at him. "Do you still think money can fix everything?" He didn't answer. "Not yet." Because that was the question that would decide his next two wishes. And deep down, he already knew the 7 days would end, but his heart would never go back to the man he was before. The 7th day came like a whisper, quiet, unassuming, yet heavy with all that had changed. Logan Hayes stood at the edge of the narrow street outside Caroline's apartment, the morning sunlight falling weakly through dusty air. His once clean sneakers were scuffed and gray now, his jeans worn, his shirt wrinkled. The man who had been untouchable now looked like any other man, starting his day with nothing in his pocket but the memory of who he used to be. He had not shaved in days. His reflection in a small cracked mirror near the compound gate almost startled him. His eyes looked different, tired but alive, stripped of polish, filled with something raw and human. For the first time in his adult life, he could look at himself without seeing power. He saw a man. The week had broken him open. Each day had stripped away another layer of the illusions he'd built around wealth. He had stood for hours under a burning sun waiting for a bus that never came. He had eaten food that barely filled him, food that tasted of struggle and survival. He had watched Caroline count every coin before buying vegetables, watched her skip meals so Lily could have more. He had walked behind her through markets where the smell of fried oil and sweat mixed with hope. He had listened to the stories of strangers who laughed even when they had nothing. He had seen how much people could endure without complaint. And each time he returned to that small room at night, he felt another crack forming inside the marble shell he had lived in all his life. On the last night, he couldn't sleep. He had sat by the small window, watching the flickering streetlight outside, listening to the city breathe. From somewhere nearby, a radio played a love song with static in between the lyrics. In the distance, he could hear laughter, people sitting outside their homes, talking softly in the dark, sharing stories, sharing life. He realized how different this silence was from the one that filled his mansion. This silence had warmth. It was alive. His had been dead. When morning came, Caroline found him already awake, standing near the door, looking uncertain. "You don't have to stay the full day, sir," she said gently. "You've done enough." But he shook his head. "No, I promise 7 days I'll finish it properly." Lily appeared from behind her mother, rubbing her eyes. Her hair was messy, her small face sleepy but smiling. "You made it," she said softly. "You didn't quit." He smiled back, something genuine in it. "You didn't think I would." She shrugged. "Rich people don't finish hard things." He laughed quietly. "Maybe I was a little less rich this week." Caroline watched the exchange quietly, her heart torn between gratitude and guilt. She couldn't believe what she had seen these past days. Her boss, the man who once called her Caroline in clipped tones without looking up, had waited in food lines, carried heavy grocery bags, and even fixed a leaking pipe in the small bathroom because he wanted to help. He had seen her world up close, and he had not run. When he finally walked back into his mansion that evening, the house felt like a stranger's museum. Everything was spotless, untouched. The air conditioning hummed softly, the marble floor glistened under artificial light, and the faint smell of polished wood filled the halls, yet all of it felt lifeless, empty, like a graveyard of luxury. He walked through the room slowly, touching the furniture, the art, the crystal glasses lined on the shelf. Each thing seemed ridiculous now, pointless. He stopped by the giant wall mirror in the hallway and stared at himself again. The reflection that stared back wasn't the billionaire the world admired. It was a man stripped of armor. His hair was rough, his shirt still creased, his hands still marked by work. But in his eyes, something new lived, understanding. He went upstairs to his study and found the small notepad still sitting where he had left it. The same page with the numbers 1, 2, 3, the same childish handwriting that had turned his life upside down. He sat at his desk, staring at the first line, "Wish one, live like us for 7 days." He read his own signature beneath it and smiled faintly. He had thought it would be humiliating. It had been humbling instead. He had thought it would be a punishment. It had been a mirror. His phone buzzed, hundreds of unread messages, emails, missed calls. The world he had abandoned for a week was screaming for him again. He ignored all of it. Then one name appeared on the screen that made him pause. Lily. Caroline must have helped her send the message. It said simply, "Can we visit today? I need to tell you my second wish." His chest tightened a little. He typed back one word, "Yes." When the doorbell rang that afternoon, he opened it himself. Caroline and Lily stood there, both looking nervous. Caroline had worn her neat uniform again, but Lily was in a bright yellow dress, her hair tied with a blue ribbon. She carried the same small notepad in her hand. "You didn't have to come in uniform," Logan said gently. "You're off duty." Caroline smiled awkwardly. "It feels strange otherwise, sir. Habit." "Please just call me Logan," he said softly. They stepped inside. The air felt thick, heavy with unspoken things. Lily looked around the huge living room with its wide glass walls and white sofas. She walked slowly, her shoes making small sounds against the tiles. "It's so big," she said quietly. "It looks like it's holding its breath." He tilted his head, holding its breath. She nodded, like it's waiting for something to happen. He smiled faintly. "Maybe it is." They sat down. Caroline perched on the edge of the couch, hands folded in her lap, while Lily sat cross-legged on the rug, opening the notepad again. "You did the first wish," she said firmly. "You really did it, so now it's time for the second." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "All right, what's next?" Lily looked down at the page, then up at him. "This one's harder." He chuckled softly. "Harder than living poor." She nodded. "This one's about your heart." Something in the air shifted. Caroline's head turned sharply toward her daughter. "Lily, what do you mean?" But Lily didn't answer her. Her small eyes stayed fixed on Logan. "You said you like helping people," she said. "You give money, you build things, but I don't think you know how to really help." He frowned slightly. "I gave millions, I fund hospitals, schools." She shook her head. "That's giving money. I mean helping one person all the way, not for cameras, not for reports, for real. You have to find someone who really needs help and stay until their life changes. Not just give them money and go away, you have to stay, even if it's ugly, even if it's slow." Caroline's hand flew to her chest. "Lily." But Logan held up his hand gently, let her finish. Lily's eyes were wet now. "When my mom's tooth hurt, you said no because it was a rule. If someone asked you for food, you'd probably send a truck and never look at them again. But people don't just need food or money, they need someone to stay. That's my second wish. Help one person completely. until they don't need help anymore. Her voice trembled on the last words, and suddenly she looked much smaller, much more like the 10-year-old she was. Logan leaned back slowly, feeling the weight of the wish settle into his chest. It wasn't something money could fix. It wasn't something he could sign a check for and walk away from. It demanded time, emotion, presence, all the things he had trained himself to avoid. "Do you have someone in mind?" he asked quietly. Lily nodded, "Yes." "Who?" She hesitated, biting her lip, then said softly, "My friend at school, her name's Grace." Caroline turned to her in shock. "Lily." Lily rushed on. "She's 11. Her mom died last year and her dad lost his job. She comes to school hungry sometimes. The teacher helps her, but she's scared she'll have to stop coming because they can't pay for books or transport anymore. She's smart, sir, so smart, but she's sad all the time." Logan felt something twist deep inside him. He had met thousands of people who smiled through rehearsed gratitude. This wasn't that, this was real. He nodded slowly. "Then Grace it is." Caroline covered her mouth. "Sir, you can't just..." He looked at her gently. "Didn't we already learn that I can't hide behind rules anymore?" She looked down, tears filling her eyes. He turned to Lily again. "You want me to help her completely?" "Yes," Lily said. "Not for the news, not for your company, just for her." "Then I'll do it," he said simply. Lily blinked, surprised by how easily he agreed. "You will." "I will," he said softly, "but I'll do it my way, quietly." The next morning, Logan went to Grace's neighborhood with Caroline and Lily. It was far from the polished city center, a place where streets narrowed into muddy lanes and laughter mingled with hardship. Children played barefoot with makeshift toys, women sold fried food by rusted fences. They stopped in front of a small house with a broken roof sheet and peeling paint. Grace's father was sitting outside on a stool, fixing an old radio with trembling hands. He looked up when he saw them approach, confused. "Wary." "Good morning," Logan said, his voice gentle. The man stood, wiping his hands nervously. "Morning, sir, can I help you?" Before Caroline could speak, Lily stepped forward, smiling shyly. "This is Mr. Logan," she said. "He's my friend, he wants to help Grace." The man's eyes flickered with disbelief. "Help, sir, we're fine, we don't need pity." Logan nodded. "Not pity, just a chance." Grace appeared in the doorway then, thin and bright-eyed, wearing a faded blue uniform. She froze when she saw them. Lily ran to her. "It's okay," she whispered. "He's nice, you can talk to him." Logan crouched down slightly, meeting the girl's eyes. "Hi, Grace." "Hi," she whispered back. "I heard you like school," he said softly. She nodded. "Then you'll keep going," he said. "Whatever it takes, I'll make sure you have everything you need, books, uniform, food, but only if you promise one thing." Grace's eyes widened. "What?" "That you never stop trying," he said, "even when it's hard." She nodded again, and for the first time, a small, fragile smile appeared on her face. Caroline stood behind them, tears silently running down her cheeks. Lily grinned through her own. But Logan didn't stop there. He met with Grace's father, helped him restart his small mechanic shop, paid the rent quietly, bought supplies without leaving his name. Every day he returned not as a benefactor but as a visitor, a friend. He sat with them, ate with them, listened to them. The world that had once been a statistic on his spreadsheets was now breathing around him. He began to understand that real help wasn't measured in numbers, but in time, patience, and presence. Days turned into weeks. Grace started smiling more. Her father began working again, humming while he fixed engines. Caroline's own health improved. He had quietly arranged her dental surgery, though he never mentioned it. Lily watched all of it, her little heart swelling with something she couldn't name. One evening, as the sun fell over the city, Logan sat outside with Caroline and Lily again, listening to the laughter coming from the next house. The street glowed gold in the dying light. He looked at Lily and asked softly, "What happens after the third wish?" Lily smiled faintly. "That depends on you." He frowned. "What do you mean?" She closed the notepad and held it against her chest. "The third wish isn't something I can give yet. I have to see if you learned what you were meant to learn." He chuckled softly. "You talk like an old soul, you know that." She shrugged. "My mom says I was born serious." He smiled. "Well, serious or not, you changed my life." She looked at him quietly, then said something that made his heart stumble. "You changed mine too, because now I know rich people can still have hearts." He didn't know what to say to that. They sat in silence for a while, watching the sky turn pink. Then a phone rang from inside the house, his old phone reconnected after weeks of silence. He went in to answer it. It was Dalton. "Sir," Dalton's voice came through, urgent. "You need to see this. Someone leaked photos of you in the market, on the bus. People are saying you're pretending to be poor for attention. The internet's exploding." Logan's hand froze around the phone. He turned slowly toward the window where Lily and Caroline sat outside, laughing under the soft light. Dalton's voice pressed on. "Sir, we need a statement immediately. If you don't respond, it could destroy your reputation." Logan cut him off softly. "Dalton." "Yes, sir." "Let it destroy it." There was silence on the other end. "Sir, what do you mean?" Logan looked out the window again at the two faces that had given him more peace than all the money in the world. "Maybe it's time the world saw who I really am." He hung up. Outside, Lily looked up as he stepped back into the light. She tilted her head, curious. "Is everything okay?" He smiled gently. "Not yet, but it will be." And deep down, he knew that the third wish, the one she hadn't spoken yet, was already waiting for him in the days to come. That night after the call with Dalton, the house was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet, alive, trembling, waiting. Logan Hayes walked through the wide glass hallway, phone still warm in his hand, his reflection moving beside him like a stranger he was only just beginning to know. Outside, the city lights pulsed faintly in the distance, 1,000 stories flickering against the dark. For the first time, the brightness didn't comfort him. It felt like noise. He stood at the window, remembering the week in the small apartment, the laughter of children playing outside, the way Caroline's laughter had cracked like a prayer after a long day, the simple joy in Lily's eyes when her mother smiled again without pain. Those things had felt more real than anything inside these marble walls. He was supposed to feel triumphant now. He had fulfilled 2 wishes. He had done something extraordinary, yet there was a heaviness in his chest that refused to leave. He felt like a man standing at the edge of a mountain, knowing the view was beautiful but realizing he'd lost the map that told him who he was before he climbed. The next morning, the news broke everywhere. Photos of him on a crowded bus, his face half hidden by sweat and exhaustion, filled headlines. "Billionaire pretends to be poor, PR stunt or redemption." Some called it inspiring, others fake. Comment sections burned with opinions. "He's just acting. Maybe he finally grew a conscience. This man doesn't know what real struggle is." Reporters camped outside the gates, waiting for him to make a statement. His company's stock dipped slightly, sponsors called for reassurance, and Dalton sent frantic messages begging him to address the press before the storm grew worse. But Logan didn't care. The noise of the world no longer frightened him. He had seen what silence and honesty felt like. They were heavier but truer. When Caroline arrived for work that morning, she looked pale, holding her phone like a fragile secret. "Sir, the things they're saying online," she began softly. He smiled faintly. "Let them talk," he said. "They're not wrong. I did pretend once, but not anymore." She wanted to argue, but the calm in his eyes silenced her. "Where's Lily?" he asked. "She didn't come with you?" Caroline hesitated. "She's been quiet since yesterday. She said she had something important to write, I think. She's ready for her third wish." Something in his chest tightened. He nodded slowly. "Tell her I'll come after lunch. I'll hear it from her." The day passed like a whisper. He couldn't focus on anything, not calls, not meetings, not the anxious voices from his PR team. By afternoon, he found himself driving toward Caroline's neighborhood again, without guards, without tinted windows, just him and the open road. The city looked different when you drove it without protection. The streets were alive with sound, horns, vendors, laughter, chaos. Every face told a story he had ignored all his life. By the time he reached the small apartment building, his heartbeat had slowed into something steady, peaceful. Lily was sitting outside on the steps, her notebook open on her knees, pencil between her fingers. She looked up when she saw him and smiled, that shy, knowing smile that had somehow turned his entire world upside down. "You came," she said softly. "I told Mom you would." He smiled back and sat beside her. "So, Miss Carter," he teased lightly, "you've kept me waiting long enough. What's the third wish?" She didn't answer immediately. She stared at the page for a long moment, as if the words were still deciding whether to be born. Then she said quietly, "You won't like it." He chuckled. "I didn't like the first 2 either, but they changed me." She looked up at him, serious now. "This one isn't about you." That made him pause. "Not about me?" "No," she whispered. "It's about my mom." He turned his head toward the small window where Caroline's shadow moved inside, folding laundry. "Your mom." Lily nodded. "She's worked for you for 3 years. She takes care of your house, your food, your things. She cleans everything you touch, but she's never had a house that's really hers. She pays rent every month and it takes most of what she earns. Sometimes when it rains, water leaks into our room. I hear her crying at night sometimes, even when she thinks I'm asleep. My third wish is that you give my mom a home, a place where she can rest, a place she owns." The words hit him like a blow. He stared at her, speechless. Out of all the wishes she could have asked for, money, toys, anything, she asked for her mother's peace. He felt his throat tighten. "A home," he repeated quietly. She nodded again. "Not a mansion, just something safe so she doesn't have to worry anymore." He rubbed his forehead, overwhelmed by the simplicity of it. "Something so small yet so big, that's it?" he asked softly. "That's your final wish?" Lily smiled faintly. "That's all I ever wanted, for her to stop being tired." He looked at her for a long moment. There was nothing to argue, nothing to question. He stood up, brushed his hands against his jeans, and said, "Then your third wish will come true." Next day, Caroline woke to the sound of knocking at her door. She opened it to find Logan standing there with a folder in his hand. She looked confused, still in her robe, her hair loosely tied. "Sir Logan, what are you doing here?" He smiled. "I'm here to make trouble," she frowned. "Trouble?" He handed her the folder. Inside were documents, real estate papers, ownership titles, keys attached with a silver ring. "It's not big," he said quietly. "2 bedrooms, a small yard, the roof doesn't leak. It's in a safe area, it's yours." She blinked rapidly, the words not sinking in. "What do you mean it's mine?" "I mean it belongs to you," he said simply. "No rent, no conditions, no favors. You've given this house more years of care than I ever did. You deserve one of your own." Her hands trembled as she looked at the papers. "Sir, I can't accept this." "You can," he said gently, "and you will. It's your daughter's third wish, and I made a promise." She looked up at him then, her eyes overflowing. For a moment she couldn't speak. Then she stepped forward and hugged him, something she had never done, something she never thought she could. It was awkward and full of emotion, the kind of hug that spoke more than any words could. He froze, then slowly lifted his arms and hugged her back. Behind them, Lily watched, smiling through her tears. They drove to see the new house that afternoon. It was simple, painted cream with green shutters, a small garden in front where flowers had just started to bloom. Caroline walked through the doorway slowly, touching the walls as if to make sure they were real. She opened the window and sunlight poured in like a blessing. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It smells like peace." Lily ran from room to room, laughing, her small voice echoing off the walls. Logan followed silently, watching them with a strange ache in his chest, a mixture of joy and something else he couldn't name. It was as if a weight he had carried for years was lifting, replaced by something lighter, something warmer. That night they all sat on the floor, eating rice and beans from paper plates, the kind of dinner he had once thought beneath him. Now it felt perfect. The light flickered softly, the sound of crickets filled the air. Caroline looked at him across the small table. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked quietly. "You could have just given us money and left." He smiled faintly. "Because your daughter reminded me that giving money isn't the same as giving yourself." She looked down, tears spilling silently. When it was time for him to leave, Lily walked him to the door. The night air was cool, stars scattered across the sky. "You did it," she said softly. "All 3 wishes." He nodded. "You gave me more than you know, Lily. You gave me a chance to be human again." She smiled. "Then that's the secret 4th wish." He laughed quietly. "What's that?" "That you never forget." He looked at her seriously. "I won't." And he didn't. Months passed. The noise around his viral story eventually faded, replaced by new headlines, new distractions. But Logan didn't return to the man he was before. He changed everything. He lowered his salary, doubled his workers' pay, funded real programs that didn't carry his name. He spent his weekends visiting neighborhoods that never made it onto magazine covers, sitting with people, listening, learning. The empire that once stood on marble now stood on compassion. Investors said he'd lost focus. Critics called him sentimental. But for the first time, he didn't care. He slept at night. He smiled for real. He visited Caroline and Lily often. The little house became a place of peace for him, a reminder of what mattered. Sometimes he'd find Caroline in the garden, trimming flowers, or Lily doing homework on the porch. Each visit filled him with quiet gratitude. He saw Grace too, now healthy, laughing, her father's shop thriving again. These small lives, once invisible to him, had become his mirror. One evening, as he was leaving Caroline's home, Lily handed him a folded paper. "What's this?" he asked. She grinned. "A promise list so you don't forget." He unfolded it and read the childish handwriting. "Rule 1, keep your word. Rule 2, see people, not money. Rule 3, help until it hurts. Rule 4, never stop being kind." He looked up, eyes wet. "You really are wise beyond your years," she shrugged. "You're just learning fast." He laughed, ruffled her hair gently, and said, "You're going to change the world someday," she smiled. only if you help. That night, as he drove back through the city, he passed the glowing skyline that had once defined him. The towers still stood tall, their lights proud and blinding. But now he noticed the smaller lights, the ones in quiet streets, in tiny windows where families gathered for dinner, where laughter was unbought and pure. Those lights seemed stronger, realer. They were the lights he wanted to protect. He parked by the seaside before heading home. The waves crashed gently against the rocks, the smell of salt thick in the air. He stood there, breathing deeply, thinking of his life, the boy who wanted to be powerful, the man who became empty, and the stranger who had been healed by a child's impossible wish. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Lily." The wind carried his words away, but in his heart they stayed. Back at the mansion, he walked through the doors not as the man who owned it, but as its keeper. He passed by the large mirror again, the same one that had reflected arrogance before. This time, when he looked, he saw a man with tired eyes but a peaceful soul. He smiled at his reflection and said softly, "Now I know what wealth really means." The next morning, his phone buzzed with a new message from Lily. It was a photo, Caroline standing in her new garden holding a small sign that read "Home." Under it, Lily had typed, "We're planting roses today, you should visit soon." He smiled, set the phone down, and whispered, "Always." Outside, sunlight streamed through the tall windows, touching the marble floor with warmth it had never held before. For the first time, the mansion didn't feel empty, it felt alive. Moral: true wealth is what fills your account, it's what fills your heart. He gave a home to a maid, a future to a child, and a promise to himself that kindness, once awakened, must never sleep again. So remember, wherever you are watching from tonight, wealth fades, fame fades, but compassion endures forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel to support our growth and help us keep bringing you more stories that remind the world, love and kindness are the greatest riches of all.